If you clicked on this video, you already know why you're here, so I'm not going to do any huge introduction. I'm just going to get right into it. As some of you might have seen, I removed Gymshark from my bio. Everyone was asking me about it, and I've been pretty silent about it because I wanted to actually make a video just because I've been like a Gymshark athlete and people are wondering what happened. Did I leave? Did they drop me? What was the reason, etc. So I just want to say first and foremost, if you're clicking on this video as like, hi Soosh. If you're clicking on this video to watch me rag on Gymshark, or because you hate Gymshark and you want to see me like destroy them, you've come to the wrong place, because at the end of the day, I still have a lot of respect for Gymshark, specifically for the Soosh is recording me right now. I specifically have a lot of respect for the actual physical people that I know on Gymshark. So in terms of the direction that the company has gone, especially in the last year or so, versus the actual physical humans that I know at Gymshark, in my mind, those are two completely different things. The executives are some of the nicest people that I've ever met, and they've helped me a lot when I've needed it. So I just wanted to get that out of the way at the beginning of the video, because I don't want people to think that basically I had an issue with the actual people or anything like that. So the answer is Gymshark dropped me. I didn't go to Gymshark and say that I didn't want to be with them anymore. They dropped me, but it was kind of mutual. Now that I think about it, I don't really know, it's kind of a long story, but I don't want to make this a super long video, but I do want to give my honest thoughts on me and the company as a whole, and just my thoughts about the whole thing. So I guess for the first thing, I'll just get out of the way why, in their words, they dropped me. So there were, how many things were there? They said that there were two things. The first one was, in their words, it's culturally not a good fit. And two was, they said that they felt like they were holding me back because I wanted to start Vical, my own clothing company, and I wasn't planning on having it being active wear. I just wanted to have it be casual wear, which other athletes have done. But I'll get into all that. So first, the first reason was that culturally it's not a good fit. And in my opinion, that's totally a valid reason, because as you know, Gymshark is all about culture. That's their biggest thing as a company. They'd send us launch decks of or not launch decks, they would send us basically just culture updates of things that we should look out for, this trend, that trend, this upcoming app. So they were all about culture. So it's totally valid that they didn't think that I was culturally a good fit. That's not really the issue that I had. The issue was one of the specifics they brought up when they mentioned because I kind of dug deeper and I was like, what's are you referring to specifically? And they brought up my second account. As some of you may know, the ones that follow me, the ones that are good fans of me, know that I have a second account called James Spanish, which is not about fitness. It's just about my personal ideology on certain things. And as soon as they said that, as soon as they brought up the James Spanish thing, because that was the first example that they brought up, I was like, that's why you dropped me. It's culturally maybe it wasn't a good fit, but it is unfortunate for me to say that there was definitely a political ideology factor that played into it. The thing is, Gymshark always told me and told all the athletes that they don't care about politics. We'll feel free to air our political views. That's something I really respect, and I think that other companies should be the same. There were multiple times where Gymshark would publicize something, or they'd say something, and I would be outspokenly, I'd be very vocally against it, publicly. And they said that that's fine. It's for me to voice my political views, even if it disagrees with Gymshark's political views. So it was interesting for me to see that they cited that as one of the examples of why they didn't think I was a good fit culturally, because it's okay, I mean, if you want us to be open about our political views, but then you're going to cite that as an example of why we're culturally not a good fit, and as kind of bitter that may, as much of a bitter taste that may leave my mouth, it's still at the end of the day, I kind of have to respect it, because they don't have any sort of obligation to keep someone who kind of disagrees with their fundamental views. Now, the second reason they cited is the activewear company, which wasn't initially an activewear company. The way that they said it was, we feel like we're holding you back, we feel like you want to launch this company, and Gymshark's getting in the way of that. Now, the way that Vical started was, I noticed that some of the other athletes on the team, they had tank tops and stuff. So I was like, okay, so if it's merch, I guess Gymshark doesn't care. So I went to them and I asked, hey, if I wanted to make a stringer for merch, would that be okay? And they weren't totally cool with it. Like, they were definitely hesitant, but the end of the call was kind of like, it shouldn't be an issue. So stupidly of me, my brain interpreted that as, it's not an issue. And I just went ahead with like, okay, we can start this, we're good. They said it shouldn't be an issue. Let's get right into manufacturing. And I only ever sent like one sample to my athlete contact of the actual stringer that we were developing. And I'm going to take credit for this. I'm going to take blame for this. I should have actually said, hey, just want to make super sure before we start, manufacturing, is this okay? Are we going to have issues? And I didn't do that. And like, once we'd already manufactured however many hundreds of stringers, it was a big order. That's when we actually got the stringers at our house, or at my house, and I took a picture, posted it on my story, and that's when I got reached out to again, and they were like, hey, we need to talk about your stringers now. And I'm like, oh no, I can see where this is going. So they basically called, they said, we don't want you making the stringers. Long story short, without getting too specific, they were just like, look, we'll reimburse you, we don't want you to be financially hurt by this, but you can't sell the stringers. They wanted me to recycle the stringers, and then they would reimburse me in return, neither one of which ever happened because I ended up slacking. Thank God I ended up slacking on recycling the stringers, because now I'm dropped, so now I can sell them. At the end of the day, that was a done deal. That was like months ago. I was like, you know what, fine, that's okay. And I moved past it. I completely forgot about the whole stringer issue, so I was kind of surprised that they brought that up on the call, because I was like, is that really an issue, or are you just kind of saying it? Because it's like, we already settled that months ago. But, I guess it worked out for the best, because I am really hyped to sell these stringers now. So we just settled the official Gymshark release, what they said, part of the video, and now it's on to what I think and my thoughts. What I think it really was, maybe the whole stringer thing played a bit of a role in it, but I don't think so. I think that was a very, very, very small part. I don't think it helped relations, but I think that was a very small part. I think the main thing was, unfortunately, political differences. Not politics within the company, I mean like political views. And it's funny because I don't really talk about politics much on my main page, because I understand that, for one, the majority of people don't really care and they're not there for my politics. So that's why I made a second page, because it's like, I also understand that there are some people that follow me that like listening to my thoughts on things, even if they disagree with me politically. I've actually gotten a lot of DMs saying like, I don't agree with you politically, but I really like hearing your thoughts on certain topics because I like having both sides of the story. I really like DMs by that, by the way, because like, I just like when people are open-minded and they're willing to hear different perspectives. So that's why I made a second page, because I didn't want to be spamming, political stuff on my main page when a lot of people might either not agree with me or they just don't really care in the first place, right? I can't say that I was surprised that it was a factor, but I was surprised that they said it out loud. It would have been conspiracy. I would have just been kind of theorizing like, that's probably why they dropped me. But when they said, oh, it's your second account, the stuff that you've posted on your second account, I was like, damn, they're just being open about it, all right. Now, is my second account the only thing that gave them, the idea that culturally I wasn't a good fit? Probably not. It's probably also just like, it's not specifically the gear, because I was open about gear. It's not specifically the politics. It's not specifically that I'm living with Soosh, who's like, against mainstream companies. It's not specifically any of these one things. I just think it was a coagulation of all those things, kind of being like, okay, we can deal with one of these or maybe even two of them, but we can't deal with all these factors and we have to let them go. And for that, I fully sympathize, empathize, whatever. I get it. As for the gear, because a lot of people were wondering like, oh, James came out about gear and they dropped him because of that. Now that I'm not with Gymshark, I can still tell you that gear was not the deciding factor, because in the end they did let me talk about gear, and that was months ago. So if they wanted to drop me then, they would have dropped me then. I don't think that it helped, probably. And the reason I say that is when I first broached the subject, like when I first asked Gymshark if I could talk about gear, the answer was basically no. It wasn't just like no and that's it. It was just like, basically, we would prefer if you didn't talk about it. These fucking dogs, man. I'm gonna go speak to them. Good boy. Good boy. Dog owners, if you have a dog that barks like that, get it one of those little beep collars that emits like a really loud sound when they bark. It's like an automatic thing. It cures their barking, it doesn't shock them, it doesn't hurt them, it's just a really annoying sound. It's like a dog whistle every time they bark. Please train your dogs, seriously. Yo, I'm gonna go talk to the owners, bro. Alright, so they just brought their dogs back inside. Thank God. So, anyway, what was I talking about? When I first went to Gymshark, the answer was basically no. I mean, they didn't specifically say no, but it was like, they basically just said, we would prefer you to not talk about it. And then I was like, well, you kind of have to let me, because you let Chris Bumstead talk about it, you let Dylan talk about it. And that's when they were like, okay, you can talk about it, but just don't endorse it, don't condone it, etc. Which is all fine. I mean, makes sense why you wouldn't want me to endorse something that's illegal and not necessarily healthy. So that's what I did. I came out and I made the video and I was like, I don't endorse this, I don't condone it, but this is what I'm doing. So that was fine. But yeah, I don't think it helped, just because when I asked them, like, hey, can I talk about this? They weren't like, yeah, sure, go for it. You know, if they were like completely okay with it right off the bat, then I would probably say they don't give a shit that I talked about gear. But it was just the fact that like the first answer was no. And then when I explained why they should, they let me, but they were still kind of hesitant. So yeah, I can't say that did me any favors, but I think it was the politics first and foremost, and then being open about gear. Probably definitely was not the deciding factor, because they let other athletes talk about it. But again, it didn't do me any favors. The, stringer thing, maybe they cared. I feel like we resolved it. And in my mind, it wasn't really a big deal. It was just like, now as for just big picture, where the company has gone and what is Gymshark nowadays, if you guys used to remember Gymshark back in 2015, 2016, it was like the golden company. Everybody wanted to be sponsored by it, and it was the underdog, but it was also just, it ruled the fitness industry at that point. There wasn't really another activewear company that people wanted to be sponsored more by than Gymshark. And it was just clothes, and the only political message, the only message that they had past awesome gym clothes was just like hard work, determination, stay consistent in the gym, you can achieve the body of your dreams, etc. And there was no politics infused into it at all. It was also a much smaller team. And now within the last year or so, this isn't news to any of you, you've all seen it, it has definitely become much more partisan. And I don't like it. I don't like that aspect of it. I'm not saying I don't like it as in Gymshark, I'm saying I don't like it as in the partisan aspect that has been introduced, this political aspect, and just kind of the, not even politics, but just the ideology of Gymshark has been definitely one-sided. And the reason at the beginning of the video I said that it was mutual, it wasn't just like Gymshark dropped me and I was super sad about it. It was kind of like they dropped me, but I was like, okay, cool, when does my contract end? The reason why it was mutual was because of one specific instance where I kind of couldn't ignore it any longer. That was when and when I say they, it was just two people on the social team, but Gymshark's social team made some anti-law enforcement statements. They did like pretty profound ones. Basically somebody, I mean, you guys have seen the messages, but it was like they made some post that was fiery, and somebody responded in the comments. Somebody commented, Gymshark just lost every cop that follows them. And Gymshark, the official Gymshark page, responded, I think we'll be okay, in like a very snarky way. And there were some other comments that people left, and Gymshark was like, people said, oh, do blue lives matter too? And Gymshark was like, oh, are you referring to the new Avatar movie? Oh yeah, it looks great. Like, just really kind of immature and, snarky. And that was the week that 2 cops had been shot in the head in an attack in Compton. So in the US, and some other cops had actually been shot as well. So it's like, it was just the worst timing ever. And I know it wasn't intentional because it's UK based, so they don't really know as much about US politics, but it was like, I reached out to someone at Gymshark and I'm like, dude, like 2 cops have been shot in the US, or no, it was more than that, it was 3 or 4, have been shot here this week, and now you guys are out here saying that like you don't care if cops unfollow you. I basically was just like, look, you should just keep this to yourself. If you feel this way, just don't announce it on social media because it's really disrespectful. And they were really understanding. They were like, look, they actually called me at like 1 a.m. and they were like, look, this was not representative of Gymshark. We didn't authorize this. It was 2 rogue people on the social team that decided to go out and spew their politics on Gymshark's main page. And I'm like, yeah, that's, really unacceptable. Like, I know it's not Gymshark's fault. It was these 2 people on the social team, but it's like, damn, it just sucks that these 2 people have kind of tainted Gymshark's reputation by making these comments. So I expected after that, okay, Gymshark's probably, they'll issue some kind of official, because at that point it had traveled around the internet, it was on Reddit, it was on, people were DMing it to me, people were saying, how the fuck can you still be with Gymshark after they say that they don't care about, people who defend the community? And I'm like responding to all these DMs, I'm like, guys, it was 2 people on the social team, okay? I wouldn't be with a company that doesn't care about cops, that doesn't like cops. I wouldn't be with a company like that. So I was responding to each DM and clarifying what was going on. And I was kind of waiting for the official Gymshark apology. And then I saw a couple days later, Ben Francis made a post on his personal account that was apologizing and basically saying like, look, this, kind of all the same shit. This was 2 people on the social team. We didn't authorize these comments, etc. And then I asked someone in Gymshark, someone high up, I said, are you guys like, when's the official Gymshark apology coming? And they read it and they didn't respond. So then a couple days later, I asked someone else, hey, I really think that Gymshark should publicly apologize for this because, like, for obvious reasons, right? A lot of people have seen this at this point, and there's been no word from Gymshark as to whether or not they, like, on anything. And again, I got no response. So another week passed, and I realized they're not going to apologize for this. And that was the point where I was like, I can't ignore it any longer. And it was a bunch of other stuff that I don't need to get into that you guys have seen, comments that were left, posts that were made, just the way that they would respond to people. And since then, I think since the whole anti-cop comments, they have stopped talking about politics in their comment section. So maybe they have fired those people from the social team or something, or just told them like, never fucking talk about your political views ever again, which is good. I think that's the way it should be. But still, it's just, at this point, I think that the damage is definitely irreversible. It's already been done, and they've already alienated a certain type of person from their brand that might otherwise not have been alienated. I guess monetarily, financially, it was a good decision, and I guess that's all there is to say about that. That's really how I feel about it. Again, this is not anything, this is not a personal attack, or this is not, me ragging on any of the specific people that I know at Gymshark, because I know that the people that are in charge of kind of the things that I don't like about the direction Gymshark's going are not the people that I know at Gymshark. So the actual executives that I know, the athletes that I know, all great. I still talk to the athletes, I'm still friends with a lot of them, and the executives, we didn't leave on bad terms or anything like that. It was just like, They explained it, and I was like, okay, sounds good. So that's that. I mean, there's not much more to say. But on a positive note, I will be launching Vical, and it will be activewear now. So yeah, look out for that. Everything. I mean, this is just like, to me, everything is basically going to be the same. It's not like I'm just explaining why I left this clothing company, but to me, the content is still going to be the same. And if anything, I'm going to kind of have more freedom to talk about what I want to talk about now. Not that they didn't give me the freedom to do it, but it's just like I kind of felt like I had to filter myself, and now I don't feel that way. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.